Hi, everyone. Mitch Jackson, together with my co-host, Jen Hoverstad, welcoming you
Hello.
to the Show.Live. How you guys doing? It's good to see everybody today. This show is all about live streaming. It's about sharing people with you who are disrupting industries, who are creating amazing and positive change around the world through the live streaming platforms. And when Jen and I first started talking about this show, we connected. It was like, this is a show that has to happen, right, Jen?
Yeah, it's funny, Mitch, is that when you approached me about it was kind of like this instantaneous, like magnets, that had been looking for each other. We were like, oh wait, I had thought about that too. And here we go. This is it. Like, I'm so excited about it.
So this is awesome. This is TheShow.Live. This is our first episode. We've got some amazing guests already scheduled for the next month and a half. And I think, though, before we get started, Jen, I think it's only fair that I introduce you to at least my audience that's joining the show. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share just a little bit about you, maybe some of the personal side of Jennifer Hoverstad with my audience. How about you?
Go right ahead. Would love it.
Okay. All right. So for those of you that, many of you know Jen, but for those of you that don't, Jen's the operations manager of O3 Creative, which is a digital marketing and communications agency in Raleigh, North Carolina. She's married to her husband, Carl, and they have a very, very full house with a new baby daughter and two very active dogs. Now, most of you know that Jen is a licensed attorney, but what you may not know, and it kind of hurts my joints just thinking about this, Jen, so we need to talk more about this. What you may not know about Jen is that she's also a yoga instructor.
It is true.
So, Jen, I'm so glad that you're co-hosting this show with me, and this is going to be a fun ride. We're going to have a good time.
Exactly, Mitch. I completely agree, and certainly we have the legal piece in common, so it's only fair, too. If you get to introduce me, I get to introduce you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So most of you guys, Mitch. You can follow Mitch on Blab, Periscope, Twitter. He has his own website, newsletter. I mean, there are so many ways to connect with Mitch, and he has become known as the live streaming lawyer, which is absolutely amazing. For those of you somewhat familiar with the legal industry, lawyers tend to be behind the times. So what Mitch is doing for the industry is really pushing everybody, actually really more pulling everybody forward to think about technology in the workplace, certainly. But, not only has he won awards as a California attorney, but really he's all about his family and his service in your community. Many of you know that you follow him on Periscope. He's a proud member of his local Rotary. He and his wife, Lisa, will be celebrating their 28th wedding anniversary this year. They have two kids, a 21-year-old daughter at UCLA who's looking to go to law school next year, and then a 16-year-old son. And certainly we follow your kids as well. You scope about your son's soccer games and what your daughter's up to. So it's, even though, Mitch, we've only met in person once, like, it's amazing how live streaming, it makes us feel like we know each other so well already.
Well, thanks for the nice introduction, Jen. I appreciate it. And my kids cringe when I share everything about them on social and live streaming, but that's their problem, not mine. Yeah, it's interesting. Along with our guest in the audience, sharing in the comments, we're a big family. We're a big community. And it's interesting how a lot of us met up in San Francisco for the first time at Summit Live. And that was awesome. Had lunch together, got to know each other much better. And that's really where the show started. So we're going to be bringing in a very special guest today, you guys. And I think it's only appropriate. The CEO of Blab, Shaan, Puri, since we're on the Blab platform, will be our guest in a few minutes. And we encourage you to ask your questions using the hashtag Q or over in the comments. Say hi to each other, follow each other. Let's just have an engaging community, you guys. We'll open up the seats towards the end of the show after about 20 minutes, invite you in to meet Shaan, to ask your questions live. But Jen, before we go too far into the show, we do have two show sponsors that I'd like to give a shout out to, if you don't mind.
Please do.
The first sponsor, and these are appropriate sponsors for our show. I mean, this is a live streaming show, whether it's desktop or on your laptops, your mobile devices. Our first sponsor is Acron mounts, and many of you are using Acron mounts. Really, really cool mounts that you can use, all types of different mounts. But when it comes to live streaming, these mounts are high quality. They're really cool to use. And I used this morning while sharing the sunrise on Periscope down at Dana Point Harbor. Just cool stuff. So we want to thank Akron Mounts for sponsoring our show this morning. And then we have one more sponsor, Jen, that's just amazing. And we'll be sharing a special discount with our viewers at the end of the show.
Nice.
Okay? And I didn't tell you about this. This is special news. But look at the name of our show. We are TheShow.Live. Okay? What's happening on the right side of the dot today, you guys, is where it's at. That's where you can become unique, where you can separate yourself from every other .com provider out there.
Exactly.
We're using .live. I've got some domains, .lawyer, .social. There is, I'm looking at some notes here, .ninja, .dance, .reviews. I'm not sure if there's a .yoga, but our show's also being sponsored today by the good people over at Right Side Company, rightside.co, for all the exciting options that they're sharing with us to the right side of the dot and these new unique domain names. So thanks, guys, for supporting the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And at the end of today's show, just so you know, Jen, Akron Mounts will be giving our viewers a 10% discount on any orders as long as they use a special code that we'll be sharing at the end of the show, which obviously can amount to big time savings depending on the size of your orders. That's kind of exciting.
That's really exciting. And I will say too about the Akron Mounts is that seeing them at Summit Live, they are so customizable. You know, typically you get on Amazon and you're like, oh, I need something to hold my phone or to hold my equipment. But Akron Mounts actually allows you to customize these mounts so it works for you. So 10% off, that's pretty amazing. And that's great of them to, yeah, right there. Like you built that, cool. You know, it wasn't just something where they were like, really? Here, you have to have this. You built it to fit you.
Yeah, and if you know me, I'm not the most mechanically inclined person in the world, and they're really easy to use. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool that we got off to having these two companies support our show, and that means a lot to Jen and I. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. Before we introduce today's special guest, we also want everyone to know that we've got some really amazing, high-powered, influential people who are set to come on the show. Someone that all of you know who's going to be joining us as a guest on the show is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary's going to be coming on. We're going to talk about his new book. We're going to talk about how Gary is using live streaming, both at VaynerMedia and on behalf of his customers and clients. So that's going to be exciting. We've got Kim Garst. We've got David Merriman Scott. We've got, I've got a list here. We've got Alex Kahn next week, Kim Garst, Brian Kramer.
Africa Miranda. Super
excited. Is that awesome?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people in the loop, you guys. One person who I know, and some of you may not, it's Amy Covey. And Amy Covey has a new book coming out called Presence. And when it comes to live streaming, it's all about having a presence, right? Mm-hmm. So this topic is so appropriate to our show. But what many people don't realize is that Amy is the second highest watched TED Talk speaker of all time. And so if you look at her video, which we'll share eventually, you know, it's amazing. And we're going to have Amy on the show. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming up.
Well, and too, you know, with Amy coming on the show, like I know I'm reading the book right now. So I'd encourage you guys who come week after week, starting your week off with us on TheShow.Live, like read the book. So that way when she's here, we can have a great discussion about it and pick up more on just what she's been researching and what she's putting out there now.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. So Jen, how was your weekend? Did you do anything exciting?
It was awesome. You know, so for me, as many of you know in the comments, I'm a big craft beer fan, and North Carolina's Foothills Brewing released its much anticipated annual imperial stout called Sexual Chocolate. And so I went to a release party for that in a small town here in North Carolina, and we had an awesome time. Believe it or not, incredibly family friendly and dog friendly. So, I mean, beer, family, and dogs. What more could you ask for?
That's a perfect combination. I mean, that's what life's all about, I'll tell you.
I know. What about you, Mitch?
Well, I'll tell you, I was actually getting ready to start a trial this week. They didn't find any courtrooms, so it's been continued. So my week opened up. So I took the opportunity to just kind of chill out this weekend. But I will tell you what I did do is I shared 3 early morning periscopes from Dana Point Harbor, 6:45, 6:50 in the morning. So it was amazing to see how many people are interested in, the nature and beauty side of live streaming. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to leave the lawyer stuff at the office,
right,
and then just get outside and just take a deep breath and relax. So it was a great weekend. Thanks for asking. So what do you say we get into our show?
Let's do it.
All right. We're going to open up the seat and ask Shaan Puri to join us. And while Shaan is clicking in, let me give Shaan just a brief introduction. Mm-hmm. Shaan is the CEO and founder of Blab, a platform that we have all come to love and enjoy and embrace. Yes, that's right, Shaan. I'm talking about you. He also happens to be a Duke graduate. I'm assuming he enjoys basketball. I've had a chance to meet Shaan a couple of times online. And then when I was coming off the stage up at Summit Live in San Francisco, Shaan and his team from Blab were coming onto the stage. So we finally had a chance to say hello and shake hands and meet. Shaan, thanks for being on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Shaan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So what's your shooting percentage from the 3-point line, my friend?
Well, I will have you know that I was known as a shooter, 42% from 3, but that was only paled in comparison to my crowning achievement, which was I was the Asia Pacific National Free Throw Shooting Champion. So if you lived in Japan, China, Korea, or the Philippines, and you went to international school, I was the best free throw shooter you ever met.
Hey, there you go. Got to be
and that's fantastic. I did not know that about you. So when I'm D'ing you up the next time you're in town, I just can't foul you.
Don't foul me. Yeah.
That's great. Well, Shaan, so that's one thing we can agree on then is both of us probably have a strong dislike for a lighter shade of blue.
Exactly. So when I heard you're from North Carolina, I was wondering which side of camp you were on. Most people are on the Tar Heel side, but some people they know where the good guys are.
Not this girl. I got my red right here, always beside me.
I love it. Would you want me to jump in, Jen, and get things started?
Let's do it.
Well, so Shaan, to prepare for today's show, we asked our audience to submit some questions, and I think we have a couple. And one of the questions has to do with, maybe you can just share with us your journey from graduating from Duke to full circle to creating and rolling out the Blab platform. You have an interesting background, some experience in the tech sector, some experience with rolling out apps. What got you or brought you from the Duke University all the way up to the Bay Area and the Blab platform? Because a lot of us want to know what the journey's like.
Sure. Well, I think that what most people will take away from it is not that this is how it's normally done. I think this is probably the most random path you will ever find to building a tech company. But when I was in college, I was a pre-med student and a very mediocre one at that. So I thought, as we talked about basketball, I wanted to go to the NBA. Then once it was clear that my genetics were not working out for me, I thought, okay, I will do surgery on NBA players, and that's the closest thing I can get to the court. Of course, it's sort of strange when you're in school. You pick a major when you're 18, when you have the least information about, the least data points, the least experiences about what you actually might want to do. You just pick what sounds good, what you think you might want to do. And then, strangely enough, as as a pre-med student, you don't actually get to shadow doctors or actually learn what that life is like. You study the plant cell, you study biochemistry, organic chemistry, and it's basically a memorization exercise. So I didn't find much value in it. I thought that's what I wanted to do, and school was just something I needed to get through to get there. And along the way, I luckily got fed up with it. And so by my senior year, I was ready to take the easiest class that Duke had to offer. I felt I was taking a very hard load of classes compared to my buddies who were, one was going to become a teacher, one was going to go to Wall Street, and their classes seemed a lot more interesting or easier than mine. So I was determined. So I went on a website called ratemyprofessor.com, and I found the highest rated professor who was highest in ease, and helpfulness. And then the last thing, they have a little chili pepper next to the name if the teacher is hot. And so I found one teacher that had a 5 out of 5, a 5 out of 5, and the chili pepper. And her class was called Getting Rich. And I thought that was a good class for me. So I signed up for that class with my my two best friends because, again, it's strange that in college I never got to take classes with my friends, only with people who had the same major as me. So we all signed up for this class. And one thing that happened in this class is similar to this interview. Every other class, she would bring in a speaker who comes from a totally different walk of life. So somebody who quit their job and started selling T-shirts, somebody who, is a hedge fund manager, the VP of JP Morgan. It was just like not just big names, but people who have gone down unconventional paths, the things that you can't major in. Because she herself had done that. She had taken a very unconventional path and retired by 30 because she made a killing doing what she was, she was a Mandarin major, and everyone, when she graduated, they said, good luck. What are you going to do with a Mandarin major? And she said, I bet I can find a job in China. So she went to China, made a killing, ended up retiring by 30, came back to teach. And so she was a very influential person in my life, a turning point where, half the classes were about real world things like, how to get a mortgage or the power of compound savings over time. And so those were good lessons to learn. But then the other half were these stories from people. And instead of trying to find a blueprint that I could just copy, I realized that everybody's blueprint was so different and that they were no smarter than me. And starting off, they knew no more than I knew at that moment. So it was kind of had that why not me, why not now type of attitude. And, at the end, the people who, the hedge fund manager, he was the one saying, look, I get a stack of resumes this high on my desk, every month. And everybody's got a college degree and everybody has some extracurriculars. It's the people at I look at the bottom of the resume where, it's the little about me section, the differentiator, the what makes you you. And he goes, I want to hear a story. And so he's like, I'm the one who's hiring anyways. So this is America. Why don't you go out and try something? Even if you fail, this is the one country in the world where when you fail, you get praised just as much as when you succeed. So why not go ahead and give it a shot? So I had a very random startup idea that I took forward from there, which was to create the Chipotle of sushi. So I decided that sushi needed to be made into a fast casual format like sandwiches and burritos and salads before them. And I ended up randomly finding a way to partner with a Food Network chef who was living out in LA at the time. And he listened to these crazy kids who had this idea. And we won some business plan competitions, so we got some money, we got some mentors, and we thought we had it all figured out, and of course, we totally didn't. So I'll fast forward through this story just because there's still some steps to go. So I took forward that idea of this sushi restaurant chain that I wanted to create, ended up creating it, but also realizing I hated the food business. So lesson learned that the first idea is not necessarily the best idea. And also just because you can doesn't mean you should. So our business was profitable. We were making money, but 3 months in, we knew this is not how we wanted to make money for the next 10 years. And we didn't find the idea of hiring people to replace ourselves as something that was a goal to be aspired to, right? I wanted to hire people because I just couldn't handle the work myself. I wanted to add more, I wanted to convince people to come have as much fun as I was having instead of convince people to do this job because I hated it, but it was making money. And because of that, because of that story, I got in touch with a guy in Australia who was starting a biotech company. He wanted me and my co-founder to come join him in starting that off. So we did. We moved to Australia, started a biotech company. And shortly after that, I decided that, hey, it's not sushi, it's not biotech, but I do love the start. I love the art of the start. Mm-hmm. So why don't I move to the startup mecca of it all in San Francisco and see what I can get my hands on. And so that's what I did. I moved to San Francisco after the biotech venture was successful, and I joined an idea lab called Monkey Inferno, and it was I didn't know things like this existed, where we got paid to build. To dream up ideas and then build them. I got to work with a team full of builders. I was the only idea guy, and everybody else had a skill. So everybody else was a designer or a developer or a lawyer or had something to bring to the table. I was just talking. And luckily for me,
you don't code. You're not a coder.
I am not a coder.
Okay.
I've tried to learn bits and pieces as I've gone, but when you work with some of the brightest people in the world, you realize that they've been doing this since they were 12. Exactly. My nights and weekends are not going to catch up. I just try to do enough so I can speak the same language at some, to some degree. So, that was it. I ran the idea lab, and Blab was born out of that idea lab. And because Blab sort of took off and had so much promise and really, fit the mark on everything we were trying to do, we said, hey, the point of an idea lab is to experiment with multiple ideas. But eventually, if you fall in love with one, if you find the one, it's time to double down. So we actually have shut down the incubator, shut down the Idea Lab, and focused 100% on Blab.
Wow.
I love it. What a story.
That is awesome. So, and Shaan, I believe I caught an interview with you recently where specifically talking about how Blab was born. It was kind of like an internal competition, right?
Yeah, it was a gut check moment. So anytime you're doing something, you have a business, you have some kind of project you're working on, there are points when you know if it's going to work or not. and it's kind of like signals be damned. So we were working on a product that had, in the first 2 months, 500,000 users. And so on the surface, everybody thought we were killing it because we were at the top of the app charts and whatnot. But we knew for that type of business, it needed to be extremely sticky. It was a messaging app, and we needed people every day to be using it as their messaging app. And instead, they would use it for the first week like crazy because it was a novelty, and then it would kind of wear off. And so we saw this real sharp pattern. And so we as a team, we said, look, we have two options. We can either keep doing this because to the surface, to the external viewer, it looks like we're crushing it. And we could do this for another 6 to 8 months before it's revealed that, hey, it wasn't really that sticky and the novelty wore off.
Right.
Or we could say, hey, what have we learned so far in building all these different products? We built maybe 8 different startups in-house, some not so successful, some more successful. And we knew what the pattern of a successful product could look like. And so we said, it's time to decide whether we want to do this, if we want to keep going down this path or find a different path. And the unknown is always a little scary. So in order to sort of tackle the unknown, we turned it into a bit of a game. We kicked out half the team from the office, and we said, it's you guys versus us. We're each going to build a startup, and I'm going to see you in 3 weeks with a prototype of something that you believe in. And here's the rules. It's not going to split, me on one side and the CTO on the other side. We pick our teams like that. It was going to be the most experienced people stay here, and the least experienced people are going to go out. The most creative people were going to go out, because I wanted to free them from the management, right? Like in most companies, most companies fail because of the psychology or the skill of the CEO. And so knowing that, I decided to distance myself from them and say, I bet I'm killing all the good ideas here. And so we let them go off, and they built their prototype. We built our prototype. We met back up in 3 weeks, and they had Blab and we had something else, and they kicked our ass. So we immediately doubled down on Blab and decided that this was going to be the future of the company.
That's awesome.
I love that story. I mean, Jen, one of the things I like about doing this type of show is we get to hear the inside, the background about, what people are doing and why they're doing it. And Shaan, what's so important is the message you just shared is one of a convoluted, like, I want to do this, I want to do that, but it's also filled with life experiences that I'm sure you took into the Bay Area when just deciding what it is you wanted to do with these startups. I mean, your life experiences is what have gotten you here today. And what people need to take, the takeaway people need to have, easy for me to say, hang on a second, because I'm all excited here. So. I am. The takeaway is that sometimes in life and oftentimes in life, things that we think we're going to like, we don't enjoy. Things that we think are going to happen, don't happen. But the key is to keep moving forward. Keep following your goals. Keep following your passions and your interest.
There you go.
See, boom, boom. And you can share. I just did a scope this morning about one of the issues, Shaan. I talked to some young entrepreneurs up in San Francisco at the Summit Live, and they're wondering why things weren't working out for them fast enough. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, geez, when I was your age, I wasn't even in law school.
Right.
I mean, give it some time, put some effort in. The story you just shared should empower a lot of people in the audience to keep moving forward and find what it is they're meant to be here to do. And then once they find that and once it clicks, to fricking go for it. I mean, I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that diagram where it says what we think success looks like, and it's like A to B. It's like a straight line, and it's like what a success actually looks like, and it's this complete swiggle. And sometimes you get there, sometimes you don't even get to B, you get to C, and it turns out you didn't even know what you wanted. And so for me, I definitely knew that to be the case. So when I joined the Idea Lab, I joined specifically because I said, how do I? I'm impatient, right? I don't want to wait 10 years to get the experience. I don't want to wait 20 years to get the experience. How do I get 20 years of experience in 2? And so an Idea Lab was very uniquely situated for me because we were working on 4 different startups at once. And I got to be essentially CEO or product manager of all of them. And so because of that, I got all these repetitions in parallel instead of in sequence. And so I got to see what was, certain mistakes that we were making in the idea phase or the business model phase or the growth phase or community building phase. And I got to see what worked and what didn't work. But I was doing it all in parallel. And yeah, I was sleeping at the office, but it was what I wanted to be doing at that time. It didn't feel like work. I felt like I was making up for years and years of experience in months. And that was a very addictive feeling for me.
And along those lines, Shaan, Clay Mosley asked, what's the most difficult decision you've had to make so far at Blab? Public decision. What would you share with us?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It is a really good question. There have been certain product decisions that I would say are tough, but every product decision is you sort of you never know what the other path would have looked like because you chose one route. And so you kind of always just have this, there's a nice feeling there where you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you missed out on by not going down a different route. But the most difficult decision has not been a decision. It's been a mindset. It's keeping my team in a mindset that all we have to do is every single day, like just take one step forward, one march forward, and just say, changing the mindset from when you're in Idea Lab, there's always another idea. There was always the chance that, hey, this startup might fail and we'll just pick up that other idea, or we'll disband and go get a job. And it was getting the team into the mindset of, no, this is going to succeed. We're going to make this happen. It's not just will it happen or not? We will make it happen. And in order to do that, what do we need to do? What do we need to commit to in terms of improvement, of progress, and saying, okay, if something completely fails on one day, what's our mindset when we come back in the next day? So I would say it's not a difficult decision. Decisions are actually quite easy. It's having a certain tough mindset where every single day you don't give up. You don't deviate from the path. You don't have self-doubt creep in. That's the most difficult thing on a day-to-day basis, is just making sure my team has the most solid mindset of any company in the Valley.
Love it.
That's great. I'm going to bring in Bonnie's question here. She's asking about your support network. Growing up, I think so often we assume certain things about people, how they were raised and where they got to where they are, but typically there's a very unique story behind it. So what about you, Shaan? Where did that support network come from for you?
Well, a lot of people think okay, Indian kid who's supposed to go to med school and then stops and decides to start a sushi restaurant, like that can have gone over well. And certainly there was some hesitation of they tried to talk me out of it, but once they realized they're not going to talk me out of it, then they just decided to get on board, right? Like if you can't stop the train, get on the train. And that's, I think the for most parents, or at least I should only speak for my own set of parents. For my parents, when they saw me waking up for a reason that wasn't my alarm clock, when they saw me working hard without ever being told to, they knew that this is the right path to go down. And whether this is the end destination or just the first step in a long journey, it didn't matter because they saw me at my best. They saw me maximizing my potential. And they hadn't seen that before. Again, I told you I was a very mediocre student. Mediocre in terms of like you get into Duke, you're not that mediocre, but within that, once I got to that level, I was not at the top anymore.
Right.
And so I think for my parents, once they saw that A, they couldn't talk me out of it, and B, they saw me rising to the occasion, they didn't care whether it was sushi or biotech or Blab or anything else. They saw that I was happy and I was very motivated. So I think I had a lot of support from them, both, moral support, but also, a bit of financial support. So right when I left college, I turned down a 6-figure job. I literally left after 1 month to go do the sushi thing. So they did not doubt that. And I knew that, hey, push comes to shove, what's the worst that could happen? I moved back in with my parents or I go right back where I came from. So I did not fear failure. And that was a testament to them, supporting me. I knew I had a backstop.
That's awesome.
The mindset. Once again, it's that mindset. And for those of you just joining us, we're talking and chatting with Shaan Puri, the CEO of Blab. And Shaan, we have probably another 10 or 15 minutes. We want to open up the seat eventually and ask people to come in if they'd like to meet you and ask a question. But before we do that, can you share with us what you've observed to be maybe the most unique use of Blab that you've observed but didn't expect? Are there any examples you can share with us?
Sure. So when we started this, you have crazy ideas of what can become, right? Ideas are sort of the cheapest, freest thing available. And if you put 10 people like us and our team in a room, you will fill a whiteboard. But there have been some things that have surprised us. So we thought, okay, what are people going to use this for? People are going to create shows. People are going to create talk shows. People are going to do trivia. People are going to do karaoke. People are going to do all these different things. The one thing I did not expect was the level of two things. One was the level of cross-pollination. So I thought people would basically stick to their own. People would start their own show, and they'd have their audience, and there'd be another show, and they'd have their audience. But instead, you see this amazing support of people hopping from room to room throughout the day, meeting people, getting together in real life, forming relationships, and actually taking it so much further than online. So that was surprising to me because that's sort of the touchy-feely stuff that you don't always imagine, being the case. It's a very warm feeling, but you can't bank on that as a business owner. The other thing that I thought was most crazy is there's a guy, his name's Martin Shkreli, and if you Google him, he's called the most hated man in America. You'll see him pop up if you Google the most hated man in America. And this guy, he's a 30-something-year-old, 32-year-old CEO of a pharmaceutical company. He's been made out to be an absolute monster by the media. He has a personality that's fit for TV in terms of drama and sort of his shock value. But he's on here every night streaming. And I never thought that somebody like that, somebody who you would see, made out to be one thing in the media, you would have access to that person and you could form your own opinion. You could talk to him, you could call in, you could ask a question, and you will get to interact with this person and form your own opinion. So I would say that things like that you sort of imagine might happen, but when it happens, it's still kind of shocking. Right. The same person you see on CNN, you see on Blab for 5 hours that night. It's a very different feeling.
And you can really get to see. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
No, I was going to say I love those examples as far as like different, so many people we kind of do form, like you said, that network of people, so to speak. And now we have all these relationships going on. So there's people who tend to follow certain people and make sure they support them, which is awesome. But being able to see it used in new and different ways is just how the platform is going to grow. So I love that example. Totally. I wanted to pull in Clay's question because, Shaan, I know you mentioned sleeping in the office and things like that. So, there has to be a way where you're able to allow your ideas to come to you and to be able to work at that high level, high pace. So what do you do as that stress reliever, either to get away from work mentally, physically?
So first, I don't think of it as stress relief because I don't feel stressed. So cool. I enjoy what I do to the point where even the things that I do for fun are somehow, some way related. They are always built into this. I want to do something special here, and in order to do that, I need to be insane to my game. I need to lose my mind to the game, and the game of building this company, of building this business into what I think it could be. It requires everything I've got. So even the things I do to that are out, seemingly outside the office, they are still helping me. So I box, for example. I'll go, a couple days a week. I will go and I will train in a boxing gym. But when I do so, I do it as part of the sport. I do it because I know that this is building me up for this game that I need to be playing. So I really don't see things as separate. I don't look for life-work balance. I think that is a fool's errand to try to balance life and work, because I think you will, like a seesaw, you always double down in one and the other gets imbalanced. And
exactly.
I'm not built that way. Instead, I look for integration, life-work integration. So I make friends through what I do. I socialize on Blab. I will make friends from Blab and hang out with them offline. I will train in a sport so I have more energy to do what I'm trying to do at work. I like to integrate things. I like to let one feed the other, one passion feed another.
That's awesome.
And speaking of passion, speaking of friends, we have Nick Rishwain, who's a heavy-duty Blab user and a personal friend of all of ours.
Yes.
And we also have, Shaan, some people joining us that haven't been on Blab before. So I think it's important that we bring people in onto the seats. If you're going to ask a question, we're going to make you come on live and look Shaan right in the eyes and ask him a question so that we can show everybody the power of this platform. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing well, thanks, Mitch. Hi, Jen. Hi, Shaan. How are you guys?
Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Shaan. Always. I'm a fan, obviously, of your platform. I think we all are. But last week I saw what I thought was a turn hopefully for the better for you guys. And I wanted to see what your thoughts were about it. We had some big names join last week. We had Tony Robbins and then Damon John, both interviewed for their first time on Blab, and big shout out to Anthony Conklin for bringing Tony Robbins in. What are your thoughts on that? Is this now going in the direction you'd like to see it go, or is this where? I mean, I felt like when I first got on Blab, this is going to be that type of experience. We're going to see these names get involved because it got me involved with live streaming as my first platform. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on last week, which I thought felt like a turning point as a viewer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are the moments we wait for, right? These are the magic moments. These are the moments we knew would happen. We visualized it would happen, and then they happen. So literally, I was at a Tony Robbins seminar out in New Jersey, Unleash the Power Within, just right around the same month that we started Blab. That has given me the energy and the focus and the mindset to actually do what we're doing. So to see him on the platform, that was an important moment for me, but also an important moment for the platform. Everything we do, we just move forward, and it just goes up from here. There's no backtracking, right? Even when you hit a setback or a plateau, you're just waiting till the next level up. And so it will only move forward. And a lot of people think of these people as leaders, but they're not actually leaders. You guys are the leaders. You're the ones who are on here. You're the ones who see the future before it happens. You know the secret. You know what this thing is capable of. You know there's going to be presidents on here. You know there's going to be different people from all around the world tuning in. You know that important announcements are going to happen live on this platform. You know it before it happens. And so I don't look at these people as leaders. I look at these people in many ways as followers. They go where the audience is. And so what you're going to see is as the audience grows, you will see more and more interesting people join the platform. And it is a very important thing for us over time to attract I want to hear the most interesting conversations in the world. So that doesn't always come from famous people, but sometimes it does.
Well, Shaan, you're on the right show, because that's what you're going to see on TheShow.Live. I mean, that's where the bar is, my friend, and that's what you're going to see. Speaking of Tony Robbins, I don't know if you watched David Merriman Scott when you were on stage. I mean, when he was on stage at Tony Robbins, but David's going to be on Blab. Okay, he's already signed up to be a guest. But what he's done is, while speaking from the stage at the Tony Robbins events, he's live streaming, and he gets it. And so it's cool to be able to bring him on Blab and share David with this audience and with your platform. And Nick, that's a great question. That's a great. And just so we're clear,
follow up.
But Nick, that was last week. Okay, we've raised the bar this week. I don't care how quick last week was. This is it right here. Okay?
I didn't mean to insult that. I insult you at all.
I'm just saying.
And I had one follow-up question. I'll bounce out to let somebody else come in.
Thanks, Nick.
What can we do as fans and users to help continue to build you? And I'll take it offline.
Thanks, Nick. Great question.
I would say do what you're already doing, right? Create, creatively experiment. Try new types of content. Be patient. Be patient as things develop, as your own audience develops, as the platform develops, and also do what you're doing, which is support the shows. Right? A lot of people didn't even see that Tony Robbins was on because they weren't there, and so the people who are there welcome these guests with open arms. Show them what kind of community we've built here, so that people feel welcome. People feel like this is a place they want to come back to. That this is a place where it's not just your average platform. And I would say that there are everybody can play a part in that, just by whether you're in the audience, whether you call in, whether you're a host, doesn't matter. Everybody, it's all one ecosystem.
Let's bring in Victoria. So Victoria's from visiting us from the UK, and we actually met and had lunch together in San Francisco at Summit Live. And assuming that they have internet in the UK, hopefully she'll pop up.
I know she said she was on her phone, at least the beginning. There she is.
Hi, okay.
Hello.
What's going on, Victoria? How you doing? Are you just getting dressed this morning or what?
Did I what, sorry?
How you doing?
All right. I'm all scruffy tonight, Mitch. So when you said jump in, I thought, wow, it's real, it's raw. Take it or leave it, right?
There you go.
we love you, and you look fantastic.
Oh, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing fantastic.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Great show, by the way. I love it.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I figured it's going well. As long as Jen doesn't bounce me out, it's going well. So it's all good.
So far,
so are you enjoying Blab? You have a question for Shaan?
I am loving it. I just think it's amazing that I'm sat here now talking to you guys in your different areas, and like 2 weeks ago we were all together in real life, face to face. It's just incredible. And like for me personally, I just want to say thank you to you, Shaan, because it has brought me business. It has given me relationships. It has opened my world up to so many people. I've had 2 trips to America in the last 6 months that wouldn't have happened had it have not been for Blab. So I'm just blown away by it, blown away. And I'm excited to know where you're going to take it next.
Oh, that's a great question. Where are we going next, Shaan?
Well, it depends what you're asking. Let's make that question a little more specific, because there's a lot of stuff going
now,
on.
Now Sean's answering like a lawyer. Wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah. Or a doctor giving a diagnosis. Come on, Shaan. What of the things that interest you in Blab?
What features do you have in the pipeline?
What can we look forward to?
I think all the features will go down the same vein. So we're not in this moment where we're looking, trying to figure out where to go and swerving left and swerving right. We're understanding what works and what doesn't, and now we just do it better, right? So something you'll notice in the near future is that the homepage will change, and it's just going to change for the better. It's going to show you more relevant stuff that's interesting to you and less of the stuff that's not interesting to you, but is interesting to other people. Or sharing. How do you make sharing more viral? How do you make the sharing more frictionless? How do you make it more compelling for somebody who's sitting over on Facebook or Twitter and has no idea what's going on to get their attention and hook them in? And so you will see different features that just are better versions of what we have today. I think some of you have seen the drop-ins feature that's coming very, very soon, which is in one of these boxes where right now we put people in the box to entertain. You'll be able to put in any kind of content, be it a slide share, be it a YouTube video or a Vine link or a tweet or whatever it may be, so that now we have content to talk about that others can see as well, just like we did with questions. So there are improvements that are coming. But I would say at the end of it all, whenever we launch anything, if you want to know what we were thinking when it what went into this, it's a very, very simple equation. We want people to feel heard. So we want the host to feel like their message is being heard by people all around the world. Why did we put that map in? Because I can show you that, hey, we're sitting in 3 different cities, but there are people in Europe, there's people in Canada, there's people in Australia, there's a guy in India. I can see one dot over there. I don't even know what that is. Is that the Philippines? I don't know what country that is even. There's people all around the world who my message is reaching just from sitting here, in San Francisco by my computer. That's amazing to me. So we want the host to feel heard. We also want the viewers to feel heard. That's why you can call in. That's why you can star someone's comment. So for all these features, we don't think about them in isolation. We just say, does this make people feel more heard? And if it does, we add it in. Or we say, can we do this better? And if we can, we go that extra mile.
That's a great question, Victoria. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it, kiddo.
Thank you for having me. See you soon,
Stay
guys.
out of trouble. Stay out of trouble over in the UK, all right?
Yeah, always out of trouble.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So
It's
Shaan,
interesting. You see that? Go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to ask you to elaborate on that, because I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs who have joined us in the room today. How do you specifically, as an entrepreneur yourself, how do you see Blab supporting the businesses, the things that they are doing in the future? Like, where is this going for them specifically?
Well, I think 2 things. I think first, here's the percent of the population that wants to live stream. And then here's the percentage of the population that wants to be heard, right? Somebody that wants to be known, somebody that has a message they want to get out there, somebody that wishes they could reach more people, make more people laugh, make more people customers, make more people, meet more people. That's a huge market of people who want to be heard and want to be known. So we don't even think about it like live streaming. We think about it as in who out there has a vested interest in getting their message out there. And then all of a sudden, everything opens up from there. And so what we do is we think about that first. And then the second piece of it is, okay, what tools do they need? So if I'm a business person, do I need the ability to, take my followers from Blab and turn them into leads for my business through email or on Twitter? Or do I just want to build a relationship with people and, show them that I'm someone they can trust? Like, I know if I needed a lawyer, I know who's the first person I would call now, right? Because I've met this guy, Mitch. I've seen him online, right? So I've gotten to know you, trust you, like you over time. And so some people are going to realize that they can play the long game, that they can leverage their own personality and their own character and say, hey, that's something that that people will like if they have the chance. If I can scale a way for them to meet me, because we could do a one-on-one Skype right now, but that's not a very efficient use of my hour. But if I do this conversation with you and there's hundreds of people who've been through this room, that's now the equation changes. Now it's worth me sitting down here and actually, just shooting the shit with you guys. And actually, and through that, I know that people will become supporters and loyalists of mine. And I'd rather have, 1,000 true fans than 100,000 people who don't know me and I don't know them and I have no relationship with them. And so I think that over time will be how Blab serves them. Whether you're a blogger, whether you're a business person, whether you're just a person who likes to come on here and talk about sports or relax after a day of work, we should be a way to do that for you.
Love it.
It's just what an interesting dynamic where I think this is just changing humanity. I mean, the real-time interactive video, especially Shaan with the mobile aspect to it, is knocking down barriers. It's knocking down walls, not just in business, but society. I think it's making the world a better place. And why don't we do this, Jen? We've got, and for those of you watching, we had Shaan penciled in for 45 minutes, and we want to keep our word and keep the show going, okay? And maybe take one more live call in. I think JD Goodwin clicked in. Mark Gathwith clicked in. Mark is a sponsor of the show, so let's bring Mark in for one final question, and then we'll wrap it up and invite everyone to follow up with us after the show in an appropriate fashion. Hey, Mark, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Good. Hey, my camera's still doing that thing where it zooms in on my face. That's pretty awesome. I love it.
We think it's awesome too, and it's probably it's on the right side of the dot on my screen, so you're good to go.
Well, I think it's because I got a haircut, and it finally is liking that. So
what do you think about our use of .live for the show?
I love it. Obviously, I drink the Kool-Aid, as I said, last week on a daily basis. But, it really kind of goes to show what these domain names can do and how easy it is for people to find you and what it is that you're broadcasting. So absolutely love it. Shaan, I wanted to just basically say to you that I was very skeptical of all of this live stuff, before going to Summit Live and being a part of it. And now after Jen and Mitch and others introducing me to Blab, I really feel like this is going to revolutionize the way that we do business across the globe. I am right now pushing my company really hard to launch a more frequent Blab conversation to get people in, get people talking about what we do, because really the only way for us to reach a large audience is to do something like this in a creative way. So really I wanted to come on and applaud you first and foremost for what you're doing. And then my question would be, when you originally launched this and was thinking of this, and maybe you touched on it briefly earlier, but did you think that this was going to become the tool that it's become at this point in time? When you first kind of started thinking about Blab and what it was going to become.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to become much. My expectations were actually much higher than where it is today. So yes, I mean, I thought about it and I said there's something very interesting going on. If you look at on Twitter, you'll notice that some people will tweet at each other things that are actually just like text messages, right? They'll say like, "Hey, thanks for the invite last night. That was great," or they'll comment on how they enjoyed meeting that person or how they had so much fun with that person or whatever it is. And I thought, how interesting is that, right? Why are people doing that? Any new business, any actual innovation that's going to do something different, it has to identify a phenomenon and then build a business around that phenomenon, something that people already want to do, but the tool, maybe there's a way to do it way differently or more. So we noticed that people are willing to have a conversation in public. Why? Because other people can join in spontaneously. People know that, hey, those people have a relationship. They'll know that they can understand some context of, it sounds like they had a party last night or they were hanging out or whatever it may be. There's a lot of interesting social things that are happening in one simple tweet. So what we wanted to do was, I said, if we can open up conversation, something that's always been private, a phone call has always been private, Skype has always been private, Hangouts and FaceTime, those are always private things. What happens if it was public? What happens if I could lurk a conversation between two people who I find interesting or about a topic that I really care about? What would happen? And we didn't know, and that's what was exciting. So jumping in head first into that unknown and saying, I think that this will bring out a different behavior. I think people will be their most entertaining self when they know that there's an audience watching, right? I think it'll be very interesting to see the chemistry between people, the banter back and forth when you see two friends talking about the things that they're interested in. And so that's what I wanted to do. And I thought, who's this for? I said, this should be applicable to literally anyone and any topic, in the same way that blogging is open. You know, you see teens that blog, businesses that blog, moms that blog, you know, sports fans that blog. It's something that each person could take that medium and do something that makes sense for them with it. And so I thought the same thing would happen. I thought this would be as big or bigger than blogging itself.
Hey, Mark, great question. This is Mark from RightSideCo.co, one of our sponsors for today's show. Really appreciate it, Mark. We would not have all three of us would not have connected had it not been for live streaming, had it not been for Blab. So that's one of the powers of these platforms. Mark, thanks for coming on the show, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care, Mark.
Let me see if I can. All right, so let's lock the seat and wrap this up. You know, it's interesting how live streaming is bringing us all closer together. You know, whether it's in business, whether it's in our community service, whether it's in helping people that need help. This is something, just so you know, Shaan, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I'm slated to speak at our Rotary District Conference in March. And it's about 40 to 50 Rotary clubs in the Orange County area. My purpose for speaking is showing Rotarians how to use live streaming, how to use Blab, how to use Periscope, using mobile devices from wherever we are doing community service projects to share those projects with the world. It has nothing to do with business. It has nothing to do with raising money. It does have a little bit to do with raising Rotary membership and increasing membership, but it has to do with spreading the word. And for me, that's one of the things I like most about these platforms. So on behalf of Jen and myself, we really appreciate you coming on today and getting TheShow.Live kicked off with, you know, the right amount of momentum. I mean, after last week, it took a lot to raise the bar, but I think we did that this week, and it's been fun. So, Shaan, thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. And fantastic domain name. Fantastic domain name, I must say.
Well, and you know, it's only complemented by the platform that we selected to have our show on. So, Shaan, if anyone would like to get in touch with you, maybe share some thoughts, suggestions, or if they have questions to use the platform, what's the best way for someone to go about that?
My Twitter is definitely the best way to go about it. I pretty much do not use email. So that is my Twitter. My DMs are open, so feel free to message me anytime you'd like. As you'll see on my Twitter page, I say Carpe Diem. Seize the DM. Go ahead and message me if you have an idea, a suggestion, a thought, a question, whatever it may be. I try to respond as quickly as I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shaan.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you, Shaan. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So let's do this. We've got the seats locked, and as we that was fun. Wasn't that fun, Jen?
Yeah, I mean this has been unreal, and everyone keeping the conversation going in the comments. Like, you guys are amazing. I mean, really a show. I mean, you can have a great show with a small number of people, but I would say this is the most high quality group that I've seen in a Blab before. But maybe I'm biased. I don't know.
It's not even close. It's not even close. Even after last week, we've raised the bar. I didn't think it would be possible. And here's the good news, Jen. For those of our friends and viewers that have stuck around, okay, we have a special deal that's being extended just to our audience from Acron Mounts. And Acron Mounts, you guys, once again, these are really, really cool mounts that you can use, whether it's for, you know, multiple devices, live streaming at once, whether or not you want to just live stream with one device on your desk, in your hand, out on the field. I mean, they've literally got probably hundreds of products. But if you go to the Acron Mounts website, it's Acron, ARKON.com, and put in the order box when you place your order, the show. Okay, one word, the show. The show. You get a 10% discount. You get a 10% discount. Go ahead.
Totally customizable. So the Archon mount's totally customizable. You buy what you need now and just know that you can update it and add to it and make it as, you know, live streaming awesomeness as you can in one order.
Awesomeness, you know, and I'm telling you, this was something that they offered to do for our audience, Jen, which is so cool. So for the TheShow.Live audience, when you place your Archon.com order, put the show in the order process, it will give you at least a 10% discount. And I was also told in an email that 10% may actually go up to 15 or 20%, depending on the season, depending on the products and services. So just keep that in mind, you guys. We're happy that we're able to bring that value to you. And we've got, once again, some amazing guests coming up. Everyone from Gary Vaynerchuk, Brian Kramer, Kim Garst, Africa Miranda, David Norman Scott, and the list. Alex Kahn next week. And so what we'll be doing, you guys, because this is something where we really just jumped on and started taking action. I mean, we're still taking steps to complement this idea. And what we'll be doing this week is we will be rolling out a website with all of our schedules, with our past shows, with our sponsors, that will be able to, you'll be able to go to the website and easily see what's going on with respect to TheShow.Live, okay? And give us a couple of days to do that. But until then, if you follow us on Twitter, we'll be sharing links, we'll be sharing updates. And that's probably, for now, the easiest way to stay up to speed on everything. So with respect to Jennifer, if you can follow her on Twitter, at Jen Hoverstad, Hoverstad. With me, it's at Mitch Jackson. We'll share show updates. We'll share additional discounts that we believe are going to be available to our audience members and other things that we're working on. If you guys have any suggestions for the show, if you have any suggestions regarding guest, format, what we did really, really well, what we really need, what I need to improve on, because Jen was fantastic, you can reach out to us on Twitter and share your thoughts. We both have thick skin. Our goal is to raise the bar and bring you massive value each and every week in the live streaming arena. Right?
Absolutely. And, truly, like, while we have this awesome brainstorm of guests going right now, I mean, we want to bring you people that you want to hear from, you want to be able to interact with, and think big. I know I posted this in Mitch's Periscope yesterday, but think big, y'all. Like, huge. If there is a person, a name, a figure, whoever it is, we'll do what we can to bring them on the show, but we need to know who you want to see. So you could certainly help us brainstorm in that regard.
So in wrapping things up today, Jen, I didn't talk to you about this, but I hope it's okay. I happen to know that a friend of mine is going to be on a Blab in about 15 minutes. And I would love to refer everyone over to that Blab. And most of you know the Jenny Q show. Most of you know Jennifer Quinn. Well, Jenny in and of herself is enough reason to go and watch her show.
True.
But her guest today is Shama Hyder. Shama is a long-term friend of mine. She's doing amazing things when it comes to social media. She's got The Zen of Social Media Marketing, which is a book that came out. It's in the 2nd or 3rd edition. Definitely worth a watch. Definitely worth asking Q&A to Shama. Yes.
It's tomorrow. Jenny just posted in the comments. It's tomorrow.
Okay, and
we're so
assuming the link,
Jenny.
it's tomorrow. Okay, and here's the link so you guys can link and watch her show tomorrow, because Shama and Jenny are two quality people that will be giving and bringing massive value, and that's what it's all about. It's about community. It's not just about this show. It's about sharing resources and tools with you that we can all use to become better live streamers. So, hey, Jen, we did it. This was our first show. We kind of rolled the dice and shot from the hip, but we pulled it off, didn't we?
This was awesome. This was great. And again, everybody made it amazing. So thanks for starting your week off with us with TheShow.Live. And we can't wait next week to bring you Alex Kahn and another week of live streaming.
Enough said. Thank you very much. You guys take care. Have a great day, and always make today your masterpiece. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye, Jen. We'll see you later.
Bye.